Hey guys, it's Grim. Today I want to go over pet magic sorcerers because they're kind of flavor of the month. They're really strong, and originally I was going to do Templars first, but I just have been having a hard time finding really good one-on-one Templar fights. But I happened to run into a Sorc, and we had a couple good fights. So I thought the fights that I had with the Sorc perfectly, I don't know, outlined and detailed the techniques that I wanted to talk about. So we're going to do Sorc first. So first I want to talk about the pet Sorc strengths and weaknesses, and then I want to talk about things that you should avoid, and then things that you should exploit. So what are the pet Sorc strengths? First of all, they have crazy high pressure, and this pressure comes from a mix of their own heavy attacks, their own abilities, the curse combo, but a lot of the pressure comes from, of course, the pets. Pets provide an insane amount of passive pressure, and they will keep hitting you no matter what the Sorc is doing, whether he's CC'd, feared, has no Magicka or stamina. The Sorc's pets will just keep on kicking, and so they've got very high passive pressure that way. The pets also provide sorcerers with a form of passive defense because pets are targetable, especially the Matriarch, which is extremely prevalent because of its ridiculous burst heal, which is great, but the fact that it's targetable means that even if you have a Magicka Sorcs tab targeted, you're still going to struggle to hit them because the tab target, unfortunately, does not handle prioritization well. And so even if you have the Sorc tab targeted, if he's standing like this, there's a really, really good chance that you're going to land an in-cap or some other heavy-hitting single target ability on the Matriarch, and that can be really frustrating. So Sorcs have really great passive defense because of targetable pets. And of course, because they're Magicka Sorcs, they have very, very effective range. So they don't have to be in melee range to put all this pressure on you and to have their defense working for them. So what are their weaknesses? Well, they're poor at strafing, and by that I mean that they have a hard time following stamina kites around sharp corners. That's because they don't have a lot of stamina to run and roll dodge and sprint themselves, and because of the way streak works, where streak, you can't control its angle, it can't curve at all, and it goes, the same distance every time. So say, for instance, there's a Nightblade here, and he does this. He runs around the corner like this. If I'm at this range, that's going to be really hard to follow properly because I'm either going to run into that like I did there, totally on accident, or I'm going to shoot way past where I need to be. So say there are two corners or there's a door or whatever. If someone goes around this and then goes, inside a building or upstairs or whatever, Sorcs have a really hard time keeping up in that context. Whereas in a straight line in an open field, if someone's to retreat this way, streak is faster than a sprinting horse. So in that case, they have an advantage, but they have a disadvantage when it comes to kiting around corners and utilizing line of sight. The next thing that is going to be considered a weakness for pet Sorcs are the pets themselves. They're really dumb. They're not great at prioritizing targets, and so in any sort of non-one-on-one situation, they are going to struggle. Their pathing isn't great. They don't necessarily focus on who you want them to focus on. They just focus based on a somewhat obscure set of rules, and so they can be very frustrating at times. Magicka sorcerers also tend to have a pretty poor heal over time game. They don't have a lot of hots available to them. They can use rapid regen, etc. Like, there are a few things they can use, but overall, compared to other classes, their healing over time game isn't that great. And they also have very predictable burst. So the pets provide great pressure, but you know that a Sorc's burst is going to come in alignment with their curse. So curse, frags, pets pressuring you all the time. You can kind of predict what the most dangerous situations are, and so you can avoid those. So that's a weakness for Sorcs. Now, this variation of a sorcerer with multiple pets, probably Shadow Rend, Necro, it's super, super effective in duels. And that's because none of these weaknesses can be really exploited in duels because it's a one-on-one situation. There's no one else for your pets to target except for the person that you're fighting. And because in duels, it's considered very poor form to line of sight. In open world, that's not the case. So you have to actually exploit line of sight and other possible targets in order to make a pet sorc very, very weak. And for a lot of people, that's frustrating, both on offense and defense. So obviously, sorcs will find it frustrating because they want you to fight a certain way that goes in their favor, right? If you are fighting in a big open field, sorc's going to be really happy. Sorc's going to have an easy time killing you because all of their advantages are right in front of them. It's a very easy fight for them, and all of their disadvantages are minimized. You're not exploiting any of their weaknesses if you're standing out in a field. But in a duel, that's what it's all about, is just going head to head and seeing, who can just stand out in the open and wreck each other first. No line of sight is allowed, and if it is allowed, it's kind of frowned upon. So you have to make sure that when you are in open world, you're not in the dueling mindset. A lot of people get in the dueling mindset and they lose and die because of that, and that's very frustrating for them. So that's what I mean when I say it's frustrating for both sides. If you don't change your mindset when you go open world, you're going to run into issues. So let's talk about things that you should be avoiding. Number one, when you're fighting a pet sorc, avoid big open spaces, right? That plays to all of their strengths and doesn't play into any of their weaknesses, so don't do it. You can choose when to engage a pet sorc most of the time, either via repositioning, or if you're a Nightblade, it's extremely easy. You always get to decide the terms of combat. And if you're a medium armor Sandblade like I am, an open field you're going to lose that fight every time. Against a player of equal skill running a pet sorc build, medium armor Sandblade should lose in an open field every time. It's just a really bad matchup, right? So even if you're not a Sandblade, you don't want to be in an open field. But especially if you're a medium armor Sandblade, that's not where you want to be fighting. You need to reposition. You get to choose where the fight is going to take place and under what conditions. And if they don't agree to those conditions, then you're scot-free because you've gotten away, right? If you reposition and the sorc doesn't follow, great, that's fine, right? What's wrong with that? Nothing. So avoid open fields, and then avoid the dueling mindset. You got to stop thinking that you're in a duel when you're open world because you're going to ruin yourself. Instead, focus on the things that you can exploit. In open world, my mindset is, there's a little bit of honor, sure, and you get your ego wrapped up in it. So every now and then, you want a perfect one-on-one fight. But a pet sorc is not a perfect one-on-one fight. Even if you CC them, their pets are still active, right? They have their own NPCs. It's very frustrating to fight a pet sorc for that reason. So, you have to exploit those weaknesses. And the things that you should be exploiting are line of sight, because both the pets and ranged sorcs in general are really, really well countered by line of sight. And then the next thing is that you're going to want to take advantage of a sorc's offense to defense transition. And what I mean by that is that unlike some other classes, sorcs have a very heavy rotation of offense and defense that's ability based, right? For the most part, a sorc's either going to be on offense, where they are, timing their burst, they're getting their frag ready, and they want to get that frag off as soon as the curse goes off, make everything land at once. And then sorcs also have a defense mode where they're stacking shields, kiting you, whatever it may be, casting, what's it called? Dark Deal, or whatever. Gosh, what is that ability? Oh yeah, Dark Conversion. They're casting Dark Conversion, right? Those are all defensive moments. You want to exploit the transition in between those. Hitting them while they're just stacking shields is usually not going to get you very far, but hitting them while you're dying isn't going to get you far either. So the best time to time your burst is going to be in between those transitions. When they're coming off defense, their shields are on a timer. They don't have plans to reset their shields necessarily, at least not for the next 5 seconds or so. And they're just switching from offense to defense, or vice versa. So when I'll go in is I'll try and time heals and make sure that I'm all good to go, like all my buffs are up, etc. And then as soon as the first curse goes off and I don't get comboed, if I'm not in trouble, I'll immediately jump in. That is the time to take advantage of all the weaknesses, because the next burst isn't going to come for 8 seconds, or he's going to reapply curse, and then you have another 3.5 seconds to go back on defense. But in between that time, after the first curse goes off and you're not bursted down, that's when you jump on it, because he's at his weakest. The shields are just about to expire. He's in between offense and defense. He's completely in flux. And that's where you're going to be able to capitalize on all of these things. When you're on defense, line of sight. When you're on offense, exploit his or her shift, whatever, between offense and defense. So now I want to look at some gameplay, and I'm going to try and walk you through what I'm thinking during these fights, and we're going to talk about what the Sorc does right and wrong, and what I do right and wrong, and the reason that essentially I come out on top and that I win. And I'm going to continue to explore this dueling versus open world mindset because it's a really big problem for a lot of people. So let's go through it. This is my first fight with this Sorc, and so you'll see I'm kind of feeling it out for a lot of it. Here I open with an in cap, boop, and I really want to make sure that he doesn't surprise me. And it looks like he actually does have a ridiculous amount of damage, and you can see the pets really laying it on thick. So I go into a pretty heavy defense mode because I've got to see kind of where he is. And I decide to line of sight here because right off the bat I've used a ridiculous amount of stamina just dodging and casting abilities. And I want to make sure that I don't run out there. So the sizing up has to continue from relative safety. I have that matriarch tab targeted, and since he's moving around that side of the building, I go around to meet him. I see the matriarch is still behind the wall. It can't target me, but there's the Sorc. I take my chance. The Shadowrun isn't out yet. I'm relatively safe here. I'm pressuring him because he's on defense, and I just need to make sure that he keeps casting shields. I let the Relentless go there, and then I execute at the same time it lands, so I get that big burst and finish the fight right away. Now I just have to make sure the curse doesn't kill me, but I'm good to go. Okay, this fight, this is round 2, and this time he's going to try something a little different. He wants to pull me out away from this house and into the open field. So I'm a little skeptical about that. I gotta be really careful here. I'm okay as long as I'm near the rock. That's a comfortable range for me. Here, his pets aren't really pressuring me too much, so I'm okay trading poison injections for whatever, just to get my Relentless up. That's no problem. And here you can see what I'm talking about. It's way easier for me to strafe these rocks. His stamina pool, very limited. Mine, much bigger. My stamina recovery is much higher. When it comes to just a run around the rock game, I'm totally cool with that. And here he's going to use Streak to catch up a little bit, but I can turn these corners in relative safety and burst him around every one if I'd like. But now he's got all the pets on me. He's got Streak here. This isn't a great position for me. And then the Soul Assault. Ugh, Soul Assault. The key to Soul Assault is to count to 3 and then Cloak. And before that, you want to use all the healing if you need it. But count to 3 and then Cloak. And you can't break Soul Assault right away, but you can after a couple seconds. If you have line of sight, you can also break it that way too. Now he's going to send me some messages. He's not terribly happy with me because he feels like I run away to guards, even though there aren't really guards here. I was more just trying to break the Soul Assault line of sight, but you know, whatever. I'm running away to NPCs, and his NPCs are just following him around, so it's all about perspective, I guess. But here we go. Now we're up here. He's got another Soul Assault for me, which is really annoying, but luckily I have the healing up, and I'm able to cast that invisibility and make it back into this little line of sight haven. And look, there his guards have, or I'm sorry, his NPCs have pulled one of my random guards, and so they are attacking him a little bit, which takes some of the heat off me, but I want to make sure that I don't go in with a curse on me so I don't get surprise bursted. And here we go. He's fighting that guard, which really guards aren't that big of a deal, but there we go. Get a little combo on him, and he goes down to the poison dot. And there my patience ended up winning me the fight. But he's probably not too happy about that. So then something interesting happened, and I think it was this particular event that inspired me really to make a video, because it demonstrates what I think is a difference in thinking between people who are ready to duel and people who are fighting to stay alive in open world. So he sends me a message saying that I suck, and my kind of response is like, I'm not the one that died. Like, he died and I'm still alive on my resource. So whether or not I suck is like in the air. You know, people can suck and win fights, but at the end of the day, he died, right? So I kind of like, okay, well, I'm not dead. And he says, you keep running to ads, lol, how garbage do you have to be? So that's another thing I think is kind of funny. Like, I keep running to ads, and I mean, I have a few things that I personally think about that.
I run the ads when it's appropriate to stay alive, as in, 1 or 2 ads for the purpose of kiting his ridiculous, like, brain dead AI, right? His ads are following him around. So I don't really feel like standing in his ads as a medium armor Stamblade is the strategy to win for me. And so I really have no problem running away under those circumstances. The issue that he has here is that he chases me into said ads, right? Like he can say that I suck for running into ads or that I'm garbage for running into ads, but he ran into my ads too, and his ads attacked my ads, rendering them ineffective, and that's when I killed him, right? So I think that it's not to expose him, and I'd prefer if no one like we all grow, right, and we all change, and that's fine. I'm not trying to call this person out, but what I'm saying is that I'm sure a lot of people share his mindset where they're open world and they're fighting someone, and their immediate reaction to a situation is like, hey, you're garbage because you're running away, and they don't assess themselves and decide, like, okay, well, why am I actually dying? Is it because I'm also running into those ads? And is it then appropriate to whisper other people and call them garbage? Like, there are definitely, instances where I am garbage. There's no doubt about it. I'm not trying to deny that. But what I'm saying is that we all have things that we can improve. And gosh, I sound like a parent. Holy crap. But the point is, I don't think this is an appropriate response. And what it shows is that he's like disillusioned himself into this idea that a fight should go a certain way, and that fights should only be like one-on-one in a big open field, as if we were in Stormhaven, which is kind of the follow-up. So I let him know, just very frankly, that like, hey, I'm in an open world Nightblade build, and I'm fighting a petsorc. Like, I'm playing this correctly, right? If I'm a medium armor Stamblade, I don't duel a petsorc. Like, that's just not going to be an easy fight. I don't duel them. I play open world, and if I was in Stormhaven, I just wouldn't accept that duel unless I wanted to get wrecked. And I'm not afraid to lose per se. Like, I'm okay with fighting duels I don't think I can win, and in fact, challenging yourself is a really good thing. And I enjoy fighting people that I think that I can learn a lot from. But a petsorc isn't a duel that you're going to learn a lot from, because you're not really fighting the player, you're sort of fighting ads, right? So it's just not normally the kind of duel I would accept, and I don't really duel that often anyways. So, and if I was to duel a petsorc, I wouldn't run a medium armor 2H bow build. I just wouldn't run it. But I'm not going to switch up my build every time I see someone to like hard counter their build. I'm just going to play around the build that I currently have and do everything I can to win the fight, which is what I do. So I let them know that, hey, like, I'm playing an open world Nightblade build, and I'm fighting a petsorc. I'm playing it correctly, and I'm winning. Like, I've now killed him twice. And so he says, like, if you just stop running away and fight a fight, maybe you'd have a good fight. And this is kind of in response to, like, when I fight someone one-on-one, I like to send them an unironic good fight. Like, I like saying hi to people, I like meeting them, and I like good fights. So even if it's a bad fight, I'll normally just, as a gesture of friendship and, of mutual learning and of mutual, like, just combat, I'll send them an unironic good fight. I never do it to haze people. I just want to say good fight and start a conversation. And, sometimes not start a conversation, but just be like, hey, man, good fight. Like, thanks for fighting me. I appreciate it. It was fun. Right? And, but he doesn't accept that. He's probably not used to losing on a dueling spec one-on-one, and he now has. And no doubt that is frustrating. Like, I understand. So he's angry and probably just being a little bit rash. And so he's saying, like, it's not a good fight because you're running away. If you would just stand in my ads and let them kill you, then you'd have a good fight. And so I just let him know, like, quite frankly, we're not in Stormhaven. The rules of dueling don't apply here. And really the takeaway from all this is that when you're in open world, you're not in Stormhaven either. And so you shouldn't fight stupidly because you think that it's, the way to do it. Like, you want to push yourself and you want to take hard fights, but don't take stupid fights, Like, you don't learn anything from playing stupidly. You learn things by taking difficult fights that push you to your limit in a way that is going to make you better, not in a way that's just going to automatically kill you without any sort of, like, learning thing, right? So anyways, I thought that was really interesting, and that's that shift between the open world and dueling mindset that you really have to get out of your head, or you're going to lose a lot of duels. So let's continue with gameplay. Okay, final fight for the night. He comes in, there are no NPCs and no NPCs to run to, so I'm going to start the fight by jumping behind this rock so that I have kind of the terrain down, because I don't often fight over here, but I have to make sure that those pets aren't able to target me easily. I think I can get through this, but I'm not able to there, and I'm not just going to sit there while he's messing with me. So I circle around the rock a little bit using invisibility to my advantage. Very powerful mechanic, and combined with rocks, it's great. I pressure him, big burst there, but he gets the Resto ult off. The Resto ult is really great on petsorc builds because obviously I can't pressure him through it. Not only is the Resto ult like really strong, especially in a 1v1, but his ads are going to just tear me apart if I sit there trying to beat on a Resto ult. So I'm not interested in that. He's successfully reset the fight, and I'm going to try and pick the fight I want. My friend has come in, and so he's backing up a little bit. My friend, of course, isn't going to actually interrupt our 1v1, but nevertheless, he has some reservations. I understand. I poke him to let him know I'm still interested, and the fight continues. His strategy here should be to bait me out into the open where he can get a combo that I can't run away from. And I think he does a pretty good job of that. It seems like that's kind of what he's going for. He wants to fight over here where he's got this advantage. He's running the correct direction, which is away from line of sight to get me into a vulnerable place. But my burst heal is about to be gone, so I have to go reset it behind the rock. And I don't have a reliable way to come back from a burst. So now my magic is really low. I'm not interested in taking a fight I can't avoid with just stamina, and he starts heavy attacking, which to me is normally a pretty good indicator that you are out of Magicka. So I'm ready to risk it for the biscuit a little bit here. I get a little combo off, and I'm able to pull it off while just barely escaping death there, but I make it, so it's time for one more unironic good fight, and it was a good night, so I appreciate it. Hey everyone, I've recorded this outro like 6 times, so this is the last one. But if you got to this point in the video, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments. I read all of them, and I really enjoy the conversations that we have. I also have a Discord, if you didn't know about it. It's in the description, everything else and more. Please feel free to join us, and we have a good time. With that all being said, I will catch you in the next one. Good night.